Good morning. My name's Hank Ridgely. I'm a justice on the Delaware Supreme Court, but really spent most of my public service for 20 years as a trial judge on our Superior Court of Delaware, where a routine part of our daily workload dealt with probationers and violations of probation, but we'll come back to that. But let me introduce the balance of our group that is here today. We have many who could not be here today, but to my far right is Amy Quinlan, our Deputy State Court Administrator for the Administrative Office of the Courts. She handles everything that needs to be handled, keeps us straight, and got us here. And to her immediate left is Chief Judge Alex J. Smalls of the Court of Common Pleas of the State of Delaware. And to his immediate left is Brendan O'Neill, our public defender for the entire state of Delaware. I want to start by thanking Salma and whoever was the food taster. Were you the food taster? Got sent to be the food taster before we went there at the restaurant. The food was very good, at least the meal I had. We got back in time to the hotel. Even though we're all disappointed Phillies fans, we got to sit next to Phil, that was his real name, in the lobby, who was having, I think he was on his third or fourth tequila by then, but he insisted on being engaged in our conversation no matter what we were talking about. And I think he was disappointed about two things, because first he thought the Phillies should have been playing. Even though they lost, he thought the Phillies should have been playing. And second, he was disappointed that he was not having a drink with Justice Clarence Thomas, who he was convinced that Judge Smalls was Justice Clarence Thomas, and Judge Smalls had to deny that.
It was after that you found him in violation of his probation.
That's right. We've been having a very busy time in Delaware working on this project. We've been enthusiastic about it from the beginning, and one of the first things that we learned is that we needed more people at the table than we had. We've actually had since we were here last year, we've met 6 times, and we've also had work being done, a lot of hard work being done behind the scenes on this project. But in terms of what the project was initially going to be, those of us who were at the initial meeting in November of 2010, we talked about our Declaration of Leading Practices to promote civil rights and racial and ethnic fairness, which our Criminal Justice Council adopted at the urging of a subcommittee chaired by Chief Judge Smalls and myself. And we also talked about bias-free decision-making concerning bail, bias-free decision-making concerning court diversion, specifically drug court, bias-free decision-making concerning violation of probation, bias-free decision-making on prosecutorial discretion, and on police searches. And then we decided early on that let's focus on the practices of the criminal justice entity that's not here today. And that was the Department of Correction. And we followed up with a phone call by me to the Commissioner of Corrections. And they enthusiastically embraced this project, and we had Kurt Shockley join our group, who is the head of the Division of Probation and Parole. But we've identified violations of probation as where we wanted to focus, starting intuitively with the concept that our prison population is disproportionately African American, and that was the area where we were looking at the decision points where people were being sent to prison. And we thought we would look at the area where discretion was being exercised on whether to submit a violation report to the court or not, and saw some immediate parallels to policing, where the police are making the decision on either whether to arrest or not, or to give a warning. And we knew from Colonel Coop, who is the superintendent of our state police, that there had been some successful reforms in Delaware in that area based upon the litigation in Maryland, and the public safety director from Maryland eventually came to Delaware to work. So we saw an opportunity to focus in that area, specifically on the levels of supervision and moving from one level supervision to a higher level, including incarceration. We did not have a lot of data to work with. Kurt Shockley volunteered to manually research that information, or volunteered someone on his staff to do that. And they worked very hard and came up with 6 months of data that really showed a 4% disparity. And we thought, well, that's actually a better result than what we thought. Go back and do some more looking. So he went back and expanded it for 9 months, researched over 4,500 violations of probation proceedings manually without any database for doing that, and determined, again, that the numbers came up the same. We developed from that a relative rate index. Basically is a ratio of the African American VOP rate divided by the white VOP rate, and in a perfect world that number should come out to be 1. We found that for level 2s it was 1.17, for level 3s 1.09, and for level 2 and 3 together 1.16. Focusing on ways to get it to 1, and also just addressing the potential that this might have been just an unusual period and we'd run out of the manual labor to do the research on this. We had some interim deliverables that we developed in Delaware, and we learned that phrase from Cynthia. Interim deliverables. Remember that, interim deliverables. We developed, we were surprised that there was actually no policy within the Division of Probation and Parole directly addressing bias-free decision-making. So the division enacted that policy and distributed it to all of the probation officers in the state. We also saw that there had not been any real training on bias-free decision-making, and so as a result, we had in July, with the assistance of the ABA, a bias-free decision-making in the probation department program, which involved all of the leaders of the probation and parole officers. And they presented a program. We had Wayne McKenzie and Edwin Burnett came and spoke. Let me just give you some examples of some of the topics. Cultural competency in the criminal justice system, implicit bias, the cost of revocation, lunch, bias-free decision-making for probation, session debrief, action planning, and closing remarks. And as a result of that planning, we also invited Ed Burnett to come back, and he's actually given a similar program to the first incoming class of new correctional officers in the state of Delaware on bias-free decision-making. We've got some ideas. We're basically at the wall in the terms of how far we can go without additional money. So that's one of the reasons we're very interested in this conference. But I'm going to maintain the suspense about where we go from here so that our public defender has something to tell you tomorrow.
Thank you.
So that's our report.